Hey guys, welcome back to KSBM Radio. I'm Art Lover and I'm here with
Unison,
Jasmine,
Jelly,
and today we have a very special guest, Miss Angela West, our new School of Business and Management principal.
with an impressive 26-year journey in the Dallas Independent School District. Ms. West brings a wealth of experience. Today we have the privilege of delving into her experiences as she takes us through her remarkable journey.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to share anything about yourself before we get started? How are you doing today?
I am great today. My voice is a little raspy today, but I couldn't miss this for the world. So other than I'm great. And to be in the presence of awesome students here at Townview Business and Management, you've made my day. So it's the highlight of my day. And again, thank you for having me.
How has your experience been so far at the School of Business and Management?
It has been phenomenal. You know, it's kind of hard to put it in words, but you all, I just feel that I was destined to be here, and I feel that everything that I've done, every role that I've had, every educational experience, every leadership role has prepared me to be here to lead you all in this awesome school. So it's been great, phenomenal, to answer your question.
Have you faced any challenges recently?
Well, I face challenges every day, believe it or not, but there are none that we haven't overcome. You know, there are challenges in education. You're going to face challenges every day, and especially when you have high expectations and, you know, you want the best for your students. You want the best for every single student here in our school, and I want to support our teachers in every way that I can. So anytime, you know, when you have those high expectations and you hold yourself accountable, there are going to be obstacles. But again, you know, working with a great team of educators and instructors like Ms. Shipman, you know, and all the other instructors that we have as a team, you know, we can overcome everything.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, guys. So today we're going to get started with the interview. To start us off, for Mrs. West, you graduated from high school in Natchez, Mississippi. How did your experiences shape your educational journey?
Well, Natchez, Mississippi is a small town on the Mississippi River, a very small population where the majority of my family lives. So growing up in a small town, truly, you all, there was one stoplight. You know, it has grown since, but that's what I experienced, you know, during my childhood days. Family, you know, during that time, again, small city, family was huge for me. You know, we say, and we mentioned the comment about it takes a village. Truly, for me, growing up, it was my village that shaped me. So that village was not only my family, but every person pretty much that lived on my street. Every person that lived in my grandmother's neighborhood where I went to school. Well, after school, I went to her house every day, and I encountered pretty much everyone on the street. So again, having all of those role models and just folk who took an interest in me really helped shape me. And I mean, education for all of us, even though a lot of them didn't graduate high school, it was important for my generation, you know, during the time to graduate high school and to go on to college. So the support was very, very valuable. And it was just not an option for me not to go to college. Again, even though they didn't go. My mom was an educator for 37 years. And for me, everyone in my family thought that I was going to be a teacher, right? I didn't want to be a teacher, right? At the time, I actually wanted to be a doctor. My immediate family and the village, the adults in my neighborhood, you know, where are you going to go to college? You know, what do you want to be when you grow up? What is it going to take to get there? What are you doing now to prepare for that? So just those conversations and interactions with my village and the encouragement just really pushed me. I'm a country girl with big dreams, you all. And again, I just want to give back and give a shout out to all of those folk who inspired me growing up.
I had a follow-up question. How did you feel being a part of a smaller town?
I felt good. I felt really good. I felt supported, but I have to share, if I can really be transparent, you know, for me, growing up for me, I had low self-esteem. I just never really thought that I was pretty, that I was going to go far. And I don't know, again, just having those adults in my family and a teacher who inspired me, right? Who called on me. I'll never forget an experience that I had, right? Who called on me and put me in front of my peers and had them share the great things that they loved about me, and just talked about how beautiful I was. I mean, that changed my life. Again, I have to go back to my mentors, have to take it back to my family and those elders in my community who really shaped, inspired, and motivated me.
Do you have any specific role models that you could tell us about, like a specific person that really sticks out to you?
My mom, mama, she's the one for me. 37 years. Again, she taught elementary and middle school, and she actually went on to get her principal certification, but she never became a high school principal. She talked about it, but she never pursued it. My mom, for me, you all growing up, I was an only child. Well, I am an only child. I was a professional TA growing up, okay? So, I go with my mom to school. I decorate her bulletin boards in the summer. Every day, after school, I grade papers, of course, multiple choice, questions. Couldn't grade the extended writing. But just growing up around her and being in that environment all the time truly inspired me. But again, I didn't want to be a teacher. My family said that was destined for me. It was going to happen. I was that one, you all, when cousins would come over to my house, I'd have the books, I'd have everything laid out. You here, you sit here. And I taught math, right, to my cousins who I said at the time, just they couldn't get it, right? And so I was always studious growing up. But anyway, again, I was that professional TA that didn't want to be a teacher, but my family thought that I was destined to be a teacher just because of the things that I love to do as a youngin', that like we would say in Mississippi. So just growing up in education, just education surrounded me, decorating bulletin boards, playing teacher. All of those things shaped me. But again, wanted to be a doctor.
Going back to your high school years, were you passionate about any extracurricular activities or organizations?
You know what? If I wasn't feeling bad, I'd get up and do a toe touch for you. I'm joking. So I was a cheerleader in all 4 years in high school, and I absolutely loved it. For me, teamwork was everything. Again, I talked about leaning on my village, growing up, but on my squad, it was my squad, that was there. So I made sure in high school I surrounded myself with positive individuals, folk who wanted to soar like me, and a lot of girls on the cheerleading squad were just that for me. So again, my support, we all wanted to excel, so we were very competitive. If someone made a 95 on an exam, then we were all a bit jealous because we wanted to, beat that 95. So cheerleading for me, it taught me hard work. It taught me just a lot of work ethic, hard work, never giving up, learn to count on your teammates to get it done, and just being professional. Looking good and doing well.
Going on to your college years, your path led you to Xavier University for your bachelor's degree. Could we ask what drew you to Xavier, and were there other colleges you considered?
Why did I choose Xavier? So Xavier University at the time was the #1 college in the nation for placing African Americans into medical school. So I wanted to be a doctor. Specifically, I wanted to be a pediatrician because I love kids. Actually, I only applied to 2 colleges, right? So I didn't want to apply for the second one, which was Jackson State University, but my mom made me. But I knew that Xavier was my destination. So I went there, and they were probably some of the best years of my life. I believe in working hard and playing hard, right? So for me, there was definitely a balance in college. So I mentioned before that I was studious, right? But I'm not the one to study all day and all night, right? I got to play and have fun. And so that's why I wanted to go to Xavier as well. All I'm going to say is New Orleans, Louisiana. You all know a little bit about New Orleans, right? Yeah, Mardi Gras. It goes down. If you don't know, it goes down in New Orleans. And so I wanted to be a part of the fun and the festivities, but at the same time, I wanted to be a doctor. And so I wanted to surround myself with folk who wanted to be a doctor as well, right? And so it didn't quite happen for me, right? But still, those years were very valuable and really helped shape, me into who I am.
What was your favorite thing about attending that university?
I just mentioned, right, it's a party city, right? If I can be honest, right? But no, again, being surrounded by very highly motivated individuals, I loved that. And I mentioned that was important for me in high school as well. So going there, imagine, right, me, this country girl, right, going to New Orleans, Louisiana, surrounded by folk from different areas of the nation. And, I kind of found myself just in awe, just really being engulfed with folk from different cultures. It was very eye-opening and amazing for me, right? Again, me coming from little Natchez, Mississippi, right? And I got a chance to step out to go to Party City, Louisiana, and, to be surrounded by, folk from different cultures. So, and to be in the midst of a party city, what? That was everything for me.
You told us how you wanted to become a pediatrician, but I wanted to ask, how did your path change to becoming an educator?
Thank you for asking. I did maintain a 3.2, GPA, but I was surrounded by very highly motivated individuals. Like still to this day, some of my best friends are doctors, right, and pharmacists. So, but there's an exam called the MCAT, right, that you have to pass in order to get into medical school. And I couldn't pass that test, y'all, to save my life. After that happened, I had a decision to make. Where do I go from here? So an opportunity was presented to me to go to Tulane University on a full scholarship to get a master's degree in environmental health science and toxicology that I couldn't turn down, right? I was already passionate about the environment, so to go to a very prestigious university right there in New Orleans, again, Tulane University, School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine, on a full ride to get a master's degree in toxicology, I couldn't turn it down. Well, I did that, and it took 2 years for me to get my master's degree. And after that, I was kind of faced with, another roadblock. I worked in the lab at Xavier University while pursuing my degree in environmental science. But after that, I started applying for some big corporate jobs. Well, they wanted more than just a year of experience that I didn't have. So they wanted the degree, but they wanted more experience. So, I didn't take, some of the basic jobs that were presented for me. I didn't take, some of those basic jobs. And so at that point, I had a decision to make. What do I go from here? Well, kind of off record, if you don't mind me sharing, because this played a big role in my life. Well, during that time at Tulane, there was a flood that came through New Orleans. It wasn't a hurricane, it was a flood. I lost everything. I get emotional when talking about it. Literally, my brand new car that I had for 2 months, everything, you all, my clothing, every pair of shoes that I owned, everything I lost. And so this was actually 2 months before graduating with my master's degree from Tulane. So at that point, all of my research, my computer was flooded. Everything that I worked on for those 2 years, right? Really, and things that I bought, and owned my whole life were gone. And so talk about roadblocks, right? And pivoting. At that point, it's like, what do you do? What do I do at this point? And so I actually moved home for a week. For a year. I moved home to get it together, to figure out where I was going to go, what I wanted to do at that point. So that year for me was huge. And so at home, I taught adult basic education. So here I was, right, back in my small town, which I grew just a little bit. And what was I doing? What I didn't want to do, found myself teaching, right? And I taught at a local church, and I taught you all an 89, he was almost 90-year-old man, how to read. I'm going to say that again. So, because for me, that was a moment that changed my life. Again, I volunteered and taught an 89-year-old man within a year how to read. At that point, I said, okay, my village was right? They got it right. So education, is probably, the thing that I need to go into. And I did. So I knew I didn't, again, small town girl, right from Natchez, had a taste of New Orleans. I knew that I didn't want to stay home, right? So I had to move. I'd have relatives here in Dallas, and so I packed up with things that I had, not a lot, because remember I lost my things in the flood. Actually packed up and I moved to Dallas. And I moved to Dallas and I started working with my family. They had a family business. And the whole while thinking, okay, all right, let me get into teaching. I'll never forget, my cousin woke up one morning. He said, I know we talked about you teaching. I think it's time. I enjoy having you working here, with my company, but I think it's time. And they were like, you know what, got a job for you, right? Got a job for you. So at that point, I got into the alternative certification program with Dallas ISD, and I started teaching at Woodrow Wilson High School. So I was there, and I had my 2 sons back to back, got married, and it's been on ever since. So I don't know if we'll talk about the other schools and all that later, or...
Going back to how you taught that man how to read, would you say that's one of your biggest accomplishments?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. You all, reading is everything. Reading is a gateway to all contents, right? If you don't know how to read, if you're not comprehending the information that you're reading, right, you're not going to get any of the other subjects. 89 years old, right? Most people at that age are set in their ways. They've learned all the things that they're going to learn in life. So, that was huge for me, right? Again, that was the point for me where I realized that my village got it right.
Even though you originally didn't plan on being a teacher, do you feel like it was always your destiny to become a teacher?
It was always my destiny. Again, growing up surrounded by it. I mentioned my mom as being my biggest role model, but my godmother, she was also an educator. So I grew up just, again, surrounded by her, helping her grade papers and going to school during the summers, decorating, cleaning the school. So I was always surrounded by it, and always surrounded by those 2 educators who were very powerful women, in my life. So, yeah, now I know. Back then, I didn't know.
Reflecting on your early years as a teacher, can you share like a more memorable classroom experience that shaped your approach to education?
Oh, wow. Let me go back. I taught at Woodrow Wilson first, and then North Dallas High School. I'll never forget teaching at North Dallas High School my first year. It was a bit challenging for me. And it was challenging because, number one, I was a floating teacher, which means I didn't have a classroom, right? I was teaching science. So here I was carrying lab equipment, pushing lab equipment on a cart from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor, to the 2nd floor, to the portable, right? That was a challenge in itself. And then I had 2 classes where I taught ESL biology. So I taught students that didn't know any English. Y'all, you all know that science is not an easy subject, right?
No.
So now imagine, right, teaching science to students who knew no English, okay, and floating, trying to provide the best environment for all of my students, and then at the same time, just trying to get them to understand the information. Well, I must say, right, being the person, who I am, shaped by all of my experiences, knowing that and truly believing that all kids can learn, I ended up with, after that year, my student scores were the best in the school. It was the tax exam. So for my students to outperform them, we celebrated. And a lot of their success came because of the additional time that they put in.
Well, thank you for sharing what you've shared so far. This is going to wrap up the first part of the interview, and we will be right back. Welcome back. We're going to continue the interview with Mrs. West. During your time at Woodrow Wilson and North Dallas, were there specific moments or experiences that stand out to you and your growth as an educator?
Definitely. So I just shared about, my work with my ESL students, and so growing them and just helping them to believe that anything was possible. For me, that was a huge time. Yes, that was a great time for me.
During your time, during your career, have you ever encountered students who remind you of you or influenced your the way you teach?
It's funny you ask. About 2 months ago, I ran into a student. Her name is Brittany. And Brittany reminded me, and a lot of me, and actually of you all. Brittany was always interested in social media, in speaking, all of those great things, but she was shy, right? And she felt like she wasn't pretty enough. So running into Brittany, and she shared with me, first of all, I walked in a restaurant, it was a Chili's, I'll never forget, and she yelled from across the room, "Mrs. West," and gave me the biggest hug. And so we just caught up in a quick 10-minute span. We caught up, and she told me that she was on a radio station, right? I can't remember the radio station that she was on, but for me, that reminded me of me, the attitude that I have of not quitting, right? Don't ever give up. Know that you are enough, right? You're pretty enough. And even the outside appearances don't matter, right? That's not going to take you to where you want to go. And Brittany was a prime example of that. So for her to be there in that job of her dream, overcoming those obstacles that she did and those insecurities, right? But to be exactly where she wanted to be, that was great. And again, that reminded me of me, because I shared with you all before, being here, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
When you became principal at the Dallas Environmental Science Academy in 2010, what were your initial thoughts and emotions stepping into the role?
You know, my initial thoughts when I arrived at DESA was, I have arrived, right? This is my dream job. I had a master's in environmental science. So to now be leading a middle school with a focus on environmental science, it was like, hey, what are my passions? What are things that I can bring to kind of, to move our school forward, to figure out what are some of the external things, who are some of the partners that I can bring in, what experiences I could engage my students in, just to kind of propel their learning and my school forward. So those 5 years were a great time of learning. So to answer your question, what were my initial feelings? I've arrived. And then what can I do to propel, this campus? Those are always the thoughts that I have, when I move from one campus to the next. So, and I think I brought some of those things there.
Your dedication to Dallas ISD spans over 26 years. What drives your enduring commitment to make a difference in this district? The children?
Children. You all drive the work that I do. I call some of my folk, I know Mr. Pouncey. Mr. Pouncey and I, kind of go way back. So we talk from time to time, and I like to call him and say thank you. He could see my smile right through the phone. And I'm like, hey, I just want you to know that I wake up and I show up every day because of our kids. And it's great to share that with you because you experienced that. You were there with them. And again, I just want to say thank you.
With your experience in various schools, how has the exposure to different schools impacted your growth as an educator and leader?
That is an excellent question. I mentioned working with, my ESL students who didn't know English, right? But researching and learning how to help them to overcome that challenge and to succeed. There was a valuable lesson learned there. Moving on to Seagoville, a very unique community, right? I'm going to say different. Different is a word that I use to describe, the Seagoville community. There were many challenges there, many accomplishments as well, right? But overcoming those challenges there was unique. That prepared me for this. And Skyline, you all, let me just say, all of my experiences, right, for all of the schools in my dean role, my AP role, my principal role, prepared me for Skyline or not. All right. So there were challenges. There were many. There were great accomplishments there as well. Right? So, there's so many things that I could say that prepared me, but it's like little things that I could take from every school and every role, again, just to get to the point where we had great accomplishments working with diverse groups of students. So, yeah, there were a lot of things that prepared me to be here.
Reflecting on your school years, could you share a bit about maybe if you had a favorite teacher and how they impacted you?
Oh, wow. A favorite. I had a lot of favorite teachers, but if I can, I'm going to go back to sixth grade, right? I'm going to go back to sixth grade. And yes, I remember, right, sixth grade. And I'm going to share something cute with you all in a minute, too. So I mentioned to you all earlier how, I was very insecure, right? I just felt at the time, and I don't know why, because I felt that, I had a village. I felt that there were people who cared about me. I liked me, but I just didn't think, that I was enough, or that I was pretty enough. For me growing up, looks they meant a lot, right? Well, I had this teacher. First of all, I'm blind, you all. These are trifocals that I have on, not bi, but tri. So I started, they are, right? She's looking like, Miss West, how transparent are you going to get today? Very. So sixth grade, you all, let me take you back. So I started wearing glasses. I probably should have started long before. But again, me being insecure, thinking, okay, I'm already not there. And then to be wearing glasses, I can't do it, right? So I'd sit in class with my head down trying to read. Well, my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Presley, right, called me up. I think I shared a little bit earlier. Called me in front of the room. She had all of the students in the room share what they liked about me, right? And a lot of things they were physical or, some inner, things. She had me put my glasses on. She made me do it because I walk around with my glasses in my hand and I put them on only when I needed to read. But she made me put them on in front of the class while they talked about the things that they liked about me internally and externally. That was a game changer, you all. 2 weeks later, I met my husband. Here's the cute part, right? So she's like, wait a minute, we're gonna go there? You're not gonna believe it, right? But let me go back. And that experience right there for me just lifted me. And just hearing all the great things that my peers had to say about me, I'm like, okay, maybe they're right? There's enough. I started walking a little bit taller. Right? I wore those glasses every day. I wore them proudly, right? I started believing that I am enough, right? And I can do whatever it is that I want to do. So who would think something, so small or so simple? 2 weeks later, my husband now walked in Miss Presley's room, okay? He attended a private school, right, before. So he left his private school and enrolled in our public school. And he walked in, and me with all my confidence in the world, it was sixth grade, wasn't high school, you all, okay? With all my confidence, right, in the world, because that 2 weeks made a difference for me. I met my now husband in sixth grade. So Miss Presley has something to do with that.
Do you have any closing remarks that you would like to share?
Closing remarks. First of all, thank you all. I love this. So any opportunity that I get to share, who I am and, what I stand for and the impact that I want to have, I want to take advantage of it. So I love the conversations with you all on a daily basis. So I may not talk to all of you every day, but I want to encourage you, right, to come and share, things that you want to share with me or any ideas that you have about taking our school to the next level. I know some of you are going to be moving on, but I know you care about our school and care about, the other students that are coming up, right, in our school. So feel free, right, to share anything that you have for me, anything that will propel our campus. So anytime you want me to come back, right, let me know the topic and I'll be here. As you can see, I love to talk. You all are watching each other like, when is she going to be quiet? But anyway, I'm just grateful. So grateful to be here. Again, I said that everything happens for a reason, and I just feel that all of my experiences have led me to be here. And as great as our campus is, I feel that there's work to do, and I'm going to do it, until the next person, because I won't be here forever, right? I'm going to do the best job that I can until the next principal steps in and takes over and pick up where, I left off. So again, thank you for this interview today.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mrs. West. We're grateful for your time and the wisdom you've shared today with us. Your insights and expertise have genuinely illuminated our discussion, and I'm sure our SBM family enjoyed learning more about you.
Thank you.
And we would be honored to have you back on the show towards the end of the year to reflect on the progress and see how you've shaped our school and changed it. But Thank you to our KSBM family for tuning into our first show. Feel free to follow us on at KSBM Radio on Facebook, at KSBMradio.tvt on Instagram, and follow our school at SBM Townview on Facebook and Twitter. And once again, I am Unison.
I'm Art Lover.
I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Jelly.
And our very special guest, Mrs. West.
All right, thank you. I got to come back in the middle of the year. We're not going
Okay.
to wait until the end. All right?
Well, thank you guys
you.
for listening.
Thank
we'll
you.
See you next time.
Bye.